Hello, I'm Chris Chandler, Microsoft Alliance Manager for 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗻𝗄𝗃. Today I've been joined by Sam Barnes, Azure Solutions Specialist for 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗃.
Hi everybody.
And today, for this Microsoft Build session, we will be covering a better way to manage Azure costs and achieve optimization. For those not familiar with 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗃, for our 40-year history, we've helped over 4,000 ISVs based in the UK, Europe, US, Canada, and beyond exceed their technical and commercial objectives by providing them industry-leading service based on our core tenets of ensuring care, accuracy, and speed. For 30 of those 40 years, 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗃 has partnered with Microsoft to provide those ISVs with access to Microsoft developer tools and, in the more recent history, professional services to help them adopt or even integrate with Microsoft Cloud Solutions. Certifying our competence, 𝗦𝗲𝗃 has achieved 4 Microsoft Solution designations and is only one of 40 partners globally to achieve the Azure Specialist for ISV status. This status is demonstration of 𝗦𝗲𝗃's capability to not only technically but commercially enable ISVs through Microsoft's commercial marketplace in terms of helping them build offers and go to market with those offers. As a further demonstration of our commitment to and investment in ISVs, 𝗦𝗲𝗃 has actually developed our Microsoft ISV Partner Program based on their feedback and engagement. Through this program, we give ISVs access to a range of benefits from subscription management and optimization that we'll be talking through today, through to training and certification access, go-to-market assistance such as the Microsoft Commercial Marketplace guidance I previously mentioned, and even cloud adoption and support services as well. Similarly to the engagement that we had with ISVs when it came to defining our ISV Partner Program, we actually like to understand what their strategic priorities are. And as you can see on the screen here, a top priority for ISVs is to improve profitability, which typically can be achieved by ensuring that your Azure subscriptions are as optimal as possible when it comes to delivering your service. Additionally, based on the feedback that we received from ISVs, this, as you can see on the screen here, is an indication of the challenges that they typically face. And as you can see, the top issue there is cost clarity and management. And then taking that one step further with the next slide is guidance from Microsoft, which shows opportunities for ISVs to optimize their Azure subscriptions in 4 key areas that you can see there. This has led 𝗦𝗲𝗃 to develop our own Azure cost optimization platform, in which Sam is going to talk you through now.
Great, thanks Chris. Yeah, so certainly when it comes to cost optimization, there was 4 key principles that we wanted to capture and to make sure that we dealt with to actually give immediate return on investment. The first one being tracking costs. So actually understanding the individual costs for individual resources, right the way through to actually possible trends that we might be able to actually spot and actually help to remediate going forward, and also predict future spend, not only accurately but also quickly, because we didn't want partners to have to wait to the end of a month when their invoice came out to actually be able to make changes. The second pillar, actually, when it came to simplified management, was being able to view all subscriptions and all cost-saving measures such as reservations or even external costs like marketplace offerings being visible all within one platform so that they could take action straight away on all of it in one go. And then actually leading on to the analytics and exploring the data, certainly the billing data, in a bit more granularity. So understanding what the changes were over time, how that impacted their spend, whether that was up or down, and actually whether or not there was some potential for extra work. This obviously then led into the 4th pillar, which is actually further optimization. Now, this actually considered 6 key principles, which would have been reservations, savings plans, the potentially to bring your own license, known as hybrid licensing. So this is where you bring either Windows or SQL licenses to Azure, all the way through to some virtual machine optimization. So we'll cover some of that in the platform. Okay, so as you can see on the platform, the first step of it when it came to actually understanding initial costs was to understand the overall spend, so we can actually track our year to date, our previous month, and our month to date. We also get a high level overview in terms of forecast, which I'll cover in a bit more detail a little bit later on. But you can also see that we've got a daily and a monthly run rate, so that at a very high level we can start to track those trends, whether that be spikes or indeed extra consumption that's happening. And certainly we can track it depending on what's important to us. So in this particular demo environment, we've got it being tracked by costs for virtual machines, but it could quite easily have been costs for storage accounts or even costs for database. You can see we've even separated out for costs by individual subscriptions, so we can start to take immediate action. Now, where that follows on is actually we can see the cost tracking in two different parts of the portal. So the first one being the chargeback showback area, where we can see all of the different resources that we have. We can track it by individual tags. So this top box will actually be using the Azure tags. The bottom table will be actually looking at meter category. And ultimately what we can then do is drill through individual information. So we can select a specific tag that's important to us. If we wanted to actually see where that cost was being initiated from, we can track it right the way down. In this case, we can see a particular node for Power BI Embedded is driving a lot of our costs up. We can similarly do the same thing if we were doing it by meter category. So perhaps you're not responsible for a set resource group or subscription, but maybe you're actually responsible for a specific meter category or so specific resource. You could certainly do that. From a quick and easy view, you can see that if costs are increasing against the previous month, they go into a darker shade, which is highlighted on screen. If costs are decreasing against the previous month, they actually go into a lighter shade. So you can see we've got that just on here. If we wanted to actually track that against, say, calendar weeks, calendar months, or even calendar years, that's certainly possible. And all these tables are exportable into an Excel spreadsheet. So it means that if you are trying to look at some of the where the costs are being generated from, but you need to be able to report that back perhaps to a line manager or a senior leadership team, or indeed just for your own personal analysis, you can export those tables to review at a later date. If this was a live environment, we would also be able to see in real time the resources on this right-hand side that would be in the table to actually highlight exactly where the spend on the current month is, and we can also drill down into those details exactly the same as we can on the left-hand menus. The other part of the portal where we see costs being tracked and being quite helpful is actually on the forecasting side. So some of these figures will look relatively familiar because we saw them on our main dashboard. So we've got our year to date, our previous month, and our month to date totals. As I say, this is a demo environment, which is why it's set at 0. What we then have is the platform using its own personal logic. So what it's doing is taking all the historical data about the environment that it knows, as well as the current data for what's happening today. And then it's applying some back-end logic to say, based on everything that we know, the remaining month's forecast in this particular case is around 12.1K. It would then add that to any monthly spend that we'd currently done, and then it actually can compare that against the previous month. So straight away you can log in and you can see whether or not you're trending up or down against your previous month to make sure that you can take action without having to wait for an invoice to come out. So this just actually goes for both the first and also the second pillar, where you're able to track your costs, but it's an ease of management as well. You can also see on the bottom table, it allows you to track it based on individual 14-day, 5-day, and 1-day cadence views. Now, the reason why that is quite helpful is because as your spend either increases or decreases, there may have been things that have happened on a specific day. So if something happened tomorrow, we want to be able to take action straight away, and we'd be able to see that 1-day line having a bigger spread, so we could take action straight away. Now, if I highlight the individual details, so we can see if I just click on certain resources, some of these are actually similar. If we go down and pick a different resource, so SQL database, you can see has got a greater spread. Our 14-day view is still quite low, but actually across the 5-day view, something has happened to increase spend, and across the single-day view, it's still going up. So it means that we would need to actually take immediate action. Obviously, in reverse, the same is true. So if we started to take those actions, then these lines should actually then decrease, hopefully to either bring it back into cadence with that 14-day view, or indeed to go below it if that's something that we are able to affect. The other areas where we wanted to help was actually, as we said, the analysis side of thing and actually digging into the data. So let's have a look at that now. You can actually dig into the data whether or not you want to do it by tag or by subscription. Normally the most popular view is actually by resource group. So you can see the individual resource groups that are driving cost up. We can actually still drag down and look at everything. So we can start with the location, go all the way down to the resource level. However, if you want to just have a quick and easy glance, you can see, for example, in main, what were the main contributing factors to drive my cost. So I can actually see that Power BI and backup were my biggest factors here to drive my cost up. Similar to what we had on the first screen, if it's in red, it indicates that the costs are going up against the previous month. If they're in green, it indicates that they're going down across the previous month. So very quick and easy to actually manage those costs without having to dig overly deep into the data. The other nice element is, as we say, we want to be able to see what is affecting the infrastructure on a monthly or even a daily basis. And that's actually done by looking at the top contributors to cost. So as we can see here, application gateway in this instance is increased by 37%. In real world terms, that's actually £343. So actually we might want to take some immediate action to remove that, or at least reduce that if possible, or certainly storage. Is everything in there needed? Similarly, if we've actually taken steps to actually remove costs, we can see the top decreases. So if something has been there the previous month, but we've taken deliberate action, we can now track that to show that we've actually done what we set out to do and prove immediate value. Again, these are all exportable so that you can report back to the business. Now, if you want to do that on a daily basis, you can do. The daily base view will actually be relying, as all of the platform is, on the 80 different Microsoft APIs for billing. So because Microsoft take about 4 days to collaborate that data, it runs about 4 days behind, but certainly it's as near to real time as you can possibly get. And then, as we said, the last piece of the puzzle was to look at the optimization opportunities. So this was looking at 6 key pillars, as I said. So reservations, savings plans, the ability to move things into a test and dev subscription. If there was a possibility for using hybrid licensing, so bring your own licensing to Azure. If there was idle or oversized resources, dormant or zombie resources, and actually then looking at some virtual machine optimization. So we'll cover some of these off just so you can see the extent of the platform. Reserved instances actually will immediately default to the virtual machine screen because that's typically where most people apply reservations to start with. But as you can see, you can filter to the other options for reservations. What the platform will do is it will list all of the different VM types that we've got, but you can see that it's actually suggested the first 3 here are actually recommended, and what it's suggesting is that there's at least a 90% utilization for a reserved instance. So it's actually looking for your quick and easy wins. You'll then actually be able to work out what your monthly cost is if you reserve for a year or if you reserve for 3 years. You can also then track it as a percentage if that's something that's easier for you to do. It's not to say that you won't find other quick and easy wins elsewhere, but the utilization may be lower than the 90%. Just to really quickly showcase the power of this platform is you can see that there's no actual specific reserved instance recommendations for premium disks. 2 reasons why that might be true. Obviously, number 1 is that there's no premium disks on the environment, or number 2, which is the case in this instance, is that there wasn't enough of it didn't reach the natural minimums. So you need to have at least a P30 premium disk to be able to apply a reservation, and because of that, there was no recommendations. But it's not a wasted view because we can see that it's still suggesting that the premium disks that we do have are actually idle, and it's basing that on the input output per second that's being consumed. So actually reducing that will reduce our bill. So again, we can take immediate action. If I go back and we look at the other elements of the platform, so zombie resources are normally where people go for quick and easy wins. Now, what this will do is it will look for resources that have been left dormant. So a great example of this is if you set up a virtual machine, you'll have associated disks, you'll have networking, you'll potentially have a storage account. If you delete that virtual machine, those resources don't just automatically get deleted. So you may actually then find that you've got these dormant or zombie resources. As we can see, the platform's pulled out this particular reference saying that this particular disk for an Azure Kubernetes agent pool is actually idle. It's not doing anything. And actually, if we were to remove this, it's going to save us around £192 for the 12-month period. Again, if we were to actually consider all of these different recommendations, we would save ourselves around £1,000. So no small amount. The other options we've got to look at is idle or oversized services. So this is always going to be a review process, but what it will do is it will suggest that actually the particular resource has been at least 50% idle. So we can see that, for example, this top option is suggesting that this disk is idle. The input output per second is not actually consuming that much, and actually removing it would save us around £71 in terms of spend. If we were to actually enable all of these different recommendations, we would save ourselves £523. So you can quick and easily see that by doing this, we would be able to refactor those what we were spending onto other services, potentially to help streamline or more innovative technologies, or even secure our environment. And the last piece of the puzzle that I do want to showcase is virtual machine optimization. So what this will be doing is it will be looking at the specific virtual machines that are running, and the initial screen will be actually working out that these top 4 are worthy of actually reviewing. It will be looking whether or not it's idle, so is it actually doing anything? Or in the instance of this top one, we can see that because it's memory intensive, the workload is actually, it would be better served moving to a different virtual machine series, so moving from the D series to an E series to take advantage of not just performance but also cost savings. If we were to do that, we would save ourselves around £50. So thanks very much for watching this short demo. That was obviously a brief intro into our cost optimization platform. We are running a Azure subscription optimization review offer. So for the first 20 partners that sign up, and you can do so by actually emailing into microsoft@greymatter.com. We'd love for you to take advantage of this offer to actually have an optimization review done on your estate and see potentially what savings there are available, and have a wider conversation of how we can support you in your business. Thanks very much for watching.